Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Life After DD214. Today, I have with me a very special guest, Chris Persaud. Chris, how are you doing today, my friend?
Good, Rob. How about yourself?
Oh, man, I'm living the dream. So, Chris, we talked about this a little bit before we jumped on this interview. You and I met, what was it, almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah. I just got out probably 2015, and you're around the same. And yeah, it's about 10 years, I guess, 2004 I heard now, so 2024. Yep, 10 years.
Yeah. So, we've known each other for 10 years, and the way that we met was we just happened to meet each other in some random office trying to build a network for each other. And next thing you know, we kind of been in touch ever since.
Yeah, dude, you're bringing back memories. Oh, no, nightmares or memories. I'm not sure which one. But yeah, I remember we were somewhere downtown Austin working with a mutual friend, and randomly this friend put us with two people. Like, you need a network. When you're networking with two people who are looking for jobs, so what kind of networking we're going to do? It's okay.
Exactly. And we're going to jump into that a little bit later. So we'll save the suspense. Um, so let's jump into why and when you decided to join the Army. Let's talk a little bit about yourself.
Sure. No, I always wanted to join the Army or join the military, I should say, for as long as I can remember. Being a kid in a pool, just jumping to the bottom, see how long I could hold my breath. Say, I want to be a Navy SEAL. Look at me. I'm at the bottom of the pool. Yada, yada, like a lot of kids probably did who ended up going down that path. I really probably got serious about it. I should say I was serious about it after high school, but really after college, my parents kind of talked me out of it. I'll be the first to admit I was kind of lucky to be born blessed and I didn't really have the need for wanting anything. So I thought it was right to give back after college, and that's really the reason I did it. I wanted to. I thought this country gave me a lot, and it was time to give it back. So only one other person in my family served. My uncle was a PJ back in the '80s, but he never talks about it or does anything about it. You never know by looking at it. He's a medical device salesman now. But that's really when I wanted to do it. So after I joined right after college. Did it 09 Sierra contract, which is the OCS contract. So I didn't do ROTC at all. And went in from there, and the rest is a blur.
Nice. So what did you? What was your MOS? What was your branch?
Yeah, so I branched armor. Don't hold that against me. But I was a cavalry officer by trade. I always joke around. It's like the Army's wasted so much money on armor officers by training us both. Because we had trained in tanks, but I was in the 82nd, so I never seen a tank after training. But we spent God knows how many rounds to send like 60 120 smoothbores down range, and it's a waste of money in my opinion. But anyway, went to Arbor Bullock, and when it was still at Kentucky, up at Fort Knox. I'm sad that it moved to Benning, not because they should be separated, just the training area at Knox was insane. I remember one of our force-on-force areas was so large, even with tanks roll, you could not see the other side or the plumes. It was like 30 kilometers that we were able to do force-on-force. I just don't think they have that space at Benning. Granted, I haven't been there to see it. So after Bullock, I got branched or sent to go to 82nd, 1st Brigade. So 2 schools came right after that. One was probably jump is airborne school. I had to go get my wings to go to the 82nd. And then the second one was Army Reconnaissance Course, which was, I think, like 10 weeks or something. I can't remember exactly, maybe a little less, up at Knox, trained by a bunch of old LURS guys, which taught us everything, all contractors for the most part. Some from the Secret Squirrel side that were really cool. That's probably one of the coolest schools I've done too in the Army. But anyway, went to Bragg, 1st Brigade, second, part of 373, where I spent most of my time as a platoon leader, all the way up to the operations side. Doing that. I was there from 2010 to 2015. I never left. Part of that reason is I went through to the course to try to get the selections all got hurt, so I didn't get selected. Nonetheless, went back and stayed another year and a half healing up on 1st Brigade, and got out after that. And a lot of reasons to get out. The biggest one is, as you probably told me my big story, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, Stephen Cooper. All I really wanted to do was SF. Dream did not work out for me, which it's okay. Everything happens for a reason. I look back at it, probably might have been the right thing for me at that time. Decided that it was time for me to leave. So I separated in, I think my ETS or refrad was May of 2015, and thus left Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and made my way down to Austin with my wife. My wife's originally from Houston, and we've been in college, but she's basically said after the 6 years, I get to pick where I want to go. So we picked Austin. Didn't have a job. Didn't know what I was doing. I actually lived with my brother-in-law for 4 months till I found a job. So yeah, that's what brought us to Texas.
Yeah, what was the thought process on that? And I'm asking because there's a lot of people who make that same decision, right? They're getting out of the military and they say, "All right, where do we want to go?" And they move somewhere completely different, right? Like you went from North Carolina to Texas.
Yeah.
Myself from New York to Texas. So, what was that thought process for you?
So it was reluctant. I'll be the first to say there was a lot of bitterness towards my wife. My dad will be the first to admit, sorry if you're watching for that. Um, there, I'll back up a little bit. So before I got out, I started working with a junior military officer recruiter. I won't name the name for sake. But what the thing is, you sign, and basically wherever they find you a job, it's supposed to be one of the premier ones where you start getting very, very high level positions at basically low, I'll say level of knowing what you're doing. As I was a captain when I got out. And part of the thing is you accept wherever it goes. I could be in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I could be up north. It doesn't matter. You go where the job's at. And they preached that. Granted, that is an easy route if you're willing to locate across wherever the U.S. you want to go, maybe global in some cases. But it's not applicable to everybody, especially if you're married. There's two people to consider. If you're single, I say go for it. But really, what it comes down to is you got to make the leap of faith, excuse me, and just say, I'm going to figure it out. And sometimes bring the boats like I did with this one and say, I'm here, I got to figure it out. That's the best way to do it, because if you have that fallback, it's always there. I mean, that fallback is good to have, but it's the crutch. I mean, I could argue, I'll go back to selection times. It was easier to come. I don't want to say it was easier or harder, but there was harder mentality to go through as an officer through selection who's now ready. He can get out whenever he wants, because there's always that thing in your head, like, you can just ring out here, you go home, and you're pretty much done. Versus maybe the 18 X-ray, who's like, I just signed a 5-year commitment. If I don't make it here, I'm going back to 82nd for the last of my 4 years. I don't want to do that. Not saying they had it any easier than I did, or I had it any harder, but it's one of those things you got to burn the boats and really plant your seed to come down there.
Okay, that makes sense. So, trying to get that job, man, what was, trying to get something, what was that like?
Yeah, transition is probably the hardest thing anyone's ever going to do. So if you're still in and you're listening, I'm not going to sugarcoat to you. I tell people I'd rather deploy like 2 more times over than have to go through a transition again. It was less stressful to get shot at than to actually worry about where's my next paycheck coming from. Because I don't want to go wait tables. I don't want to do the easy jobs, but the jobs that you just walk into. That's not what we want to do, and that's, I think, a lot of high-performing individuals don't want to do that. So the question was, how hard was it? It was difficult. I still worked with I found another junior military officer recruiter that got me a job at a large real estate company. I did that for about 5 months and realized I really, really hated real estate. And I realized I was probably a better salesman. Had a good relationship with some of our sales guys on the commercial side. And I was helping them get ready to list a new property in one of our commercial buildings. And I did 99% of the work. He came in there and just showed it. And since I was in charge of the landlord leasing, I had a check that was like 3x my salary. And I did all the work. And like, I'm on the wrong side of the business. I tried to
Right.
switch. I tried to switch to their side, got them to sponsor me, but my side of the business would let me to go. So, that was the first job. I'm telling you that story not because of, look at me, I switched jobs. It's your first job, your second job, maybe your third job. It doesn't have to be your forever job, because you're really just starting out again and you're trying to learn. Now, when I look at hiring veterans or anything, I actually don't care how many jobs they've had in the first 3 to 4, because I understand they're trying to figure it out for themselves. Now,
Hmm.
past that, if you're 5 years out and you jumped 7 times, I might be a little concerned. But it really comes down to that first 3 jobs. I think is really where you're trying to figure yourself out. I moved around a lot, and it was always strategic. The other thing I'd say to take advantage of, because Robbie and I didn't have this when we were getting out, was Skill Builder or Skill Bridge, excuse me. That was not an option. I can't I can't stress that enough. If you have the option to get a year, almost a year long paid internship at a company where they have the option of hiring you afterwards, and that's your place of duty for like 9 months or whatever it is now, that's just like golden. Mine was literally nothing against ATI, but go and look at ATI Institute. You want to be a mechanic? Do you want to go out here? Like, not really. And they're like, okay, sign your paperwork and go. And that was my transition in 2015. We didn't have all this stuff and all the education that's available now. So use what's given to you to help you.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, right? Like our ACAP process back in 2014, 2015 was nowhere near like anything that it is probably today. I mean, granted, I haven't seen an ACAP process today, but ours was, hey, let's do this LinkedIn. Let's have all these. Um, let's let's build a new resume, and then also we're going to build a federal resume because in case whatever. But also, like again, you and I left different states to come to Texas. And I don't know about your ACAP process, but they required us to do at least two on site job fairs. The problem with that is if why am I going to a job fair in the state of New York if I'm moving to Texas? Um,
Yeah.
and so that didn't really help me out, other than I think the only thing that I got out of that was being able to um, work on an elevator pitch, work on a interaction between uh, myself and a hiring manager. Maybe that was it. Other than that, there was no way that I was going to get a job with the county sheriff's department.
Tell me county sheriffs aren't remote jobs. I thought they were. Um, anyway,
Exactly.
yeah, no, I'm lucky I didn't have to do that. I was probably the saltiest captain around, and I just didn't care about rules, especially when I was leaving. Right. I always say I had the most averagest career ever. I never was too special. It was always right middle top line with above center match, just barely.
Yeah.
But so no, I didn't have that experience. I couldn't imagine. I would probably tell them to pound sand. They tell me to go to a job fair in North Carolina. I'm not living in North Carolina. Sorry. I know I probably couldn't do that. I'm saying that now that I'm out. But, no, and it goes back to like the program's changed. Thank God. I mean, it's not just that. We can go down to the VA to different sides. PTSD. Let's go back to like VA when you get out. Disclaimer and watching. If you are injured or hurt, please get that stuff annotated now. It's so much easier if you have it in your records and trying to prove it after the fact. Don't be tough. I was a special 82nd, as anyone listening. You don't go to sick call, especially as an officer. And that hurt when I got out. Going back to the PTSD, you would never talk about it. And it's very similar to the to get out experience. You didn't talk about it. And you just kind of went on your way. You were cast aside in your unit. Hey, he's on transition. Put him in charge of the special platoon. Get him out of here. We don't want him poisoning the well. Anyway, yeah, it's changed a lot. Thank God. Skill Bridge is a great program. Utilize it. Utilize everything you got there. Utilize your VA benefits. That's going back to that. So part of your job is not just getting a job afterwards. Use that education. If you haven't used, honestly, and I mean this with all due respect for anyone who probably disagrees. If you haven't used your GI benefits, whether it's for your first 4-year degree or like I have an MBA from Baylor and I'm going back for another one from Wake Forest for an MBA, MS in FinTech. Not because I need it, because it's free. It's only going to expand yourself. Don't waste those benefits. I mean, that is such a powerful tool, especially now that most people don't use it. You can if you run out, you can ask for more. 9 times out of 10, they give you more because they have excess funds. So use those benefits. Use the healthcare. Use the transition benefits for the VA as well. I know one of our guys almost at a company, just because I don't represent my company, who I'm saying right now, but he is their chief digital information officer. I work with him, or for him, I should say, and he used all of the VA vocational rehab program to get 2 masters. I didn't even know you could do that. So there's always a way and a methodology to do that. But yeah, it goes back to the job search thing. And you said something great when we talked about earlier, and trying to weave this back to LinkedIn. We did have to make a LinkedIn page. I do remember that. That's beneficial. But here's the biggest piece of advice I give anyone to take one thing away from me right now. a year out from transitioning minimum. Get on LinkedIn, start searching for what you want to do. You go in the thing, let's say I make a company. I want to go work for Amazon. I'm going to go on Amazon, search Amazon and look for a person that has a military background similar to mine. It's an example. Advanced search. It's free. LinkedIn gives you free. It's like the premium when you're transitioning for like 2 years afterwards. So that's like $100 benefit a year. Go in there, search for those people that have the common background. Everyone will talk to you. And you go through, you say, I want to get out. What do you recommend? And then before you end, develop your own program. We can go in a whole nother hour how to do this. But the biggest thing you have to ask yourself when you're done, who do I need to talk to next? Who do I need to talk to next? And keep building your network. I, I can't iterate how fruitless, I should say, and fruitful activity it is to go on job boards and search and just say, I'm going to hit a resume and click it in there. Because 9 out of 10 times you're going to hit by an automatic trafficking site that's going to decline you. And if you get through there, most times it's not going to be there. And they have somebody else already lined up. Case in point, we went all the way back to my second job where I was a account manager for Dell Federal. Again, I said I was big for Dell. They looked for people like us who had military experience in the federal side because we spoke the lingo and they knew they could teach us tech. And that's where I really learned tech. But
Yeah.
I looked through, I found people with military backgrounds. I decided I want to be at my other job. And I literally just kept networking. It went through about 6 rounds and I finally found someone that says, hey, I think you need to talk to him. I talked to him. They invited me into Dell. And he's like, hey, I don't have a role right now, but call me back in 3 weeks. I think I have one. Sure enough, 3 weeks. Yep, I got one for you. And the rest is history. That's how I got into tech. I mean, I could engineer some stuff right now, but when I first started out, I didn't even know like what's a computer for. I was like building operators.
Yeah.
What else do you want to do with it? I'll pause there. I went on for a long time.
No, it's fine. And I appreciate that, all the information that you've put through. And I want to go back to because you stopped at the perfect time. When it comes to the network, when it comes to creating relationships with other people, you stopped at the perfect time at Dell Federal. And the reason is because I worked at Dell Federal. How did I
No,
get that job? I know a guy who helped get me into the right place and in front of the right people. And his name is Chris Persaud. You got me into the right place. I guess they
I
were.
opened the door for you. You got
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
I
no,
just
no,
opened the
no.
door.
I want people to people need to understand that too, right? Like utilizing your network gets the door open. It doesn't get you hired, right? That's still on you. Like that last little bit, you still have to do. You have to pass the interview. You have to uh, impress them to get you hired. But again, other people can help you get in front of the right person.
100%. You got to play it forward when you get out there and you actually get into it and look for people to help because you've been in there and you've seen it. But really, I've done it with multiple people now. Rob's not the only one. And I always tell them, like, I'll help you get there, but I'll get you to the 10-yard line, but you got to close it. And
Yeah,
that's life.
absolutely.
And that's really what the big difference is from getting out in the Army and where we're at right now is there is no one to advocate for you except yourself when you're in the civilian world. If you were an enlisted guy, you probably had a good team leader, sergeant, maybe a platoon sergeant that was really like, this guy's solid, we got to send him to the board, we got to get him all these schools, and you just kind of sat back and just did your job. That doesn't exist in the civilian world. I always say you have to be your biggest bragger. And I go around and tell people how great I am. And it sounds arrogant to say, but you do it and you show it more importantly. And you have to be able to always looking out for yourself because no one else is going to do it in the civilian world. It sounds rough. I kind of like it that way because I'm in charge of my future and my current and my past. But it is one of those things, dog eat dog world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you love this high op tempo dog eat dog world, but if I remember correctly, I got hired on and then you left like a month or two later
Yeah.
because you had a different opportunity to come up. So let's talk about
Yep.
that.
Yeah. I'll give you guys everything else Rob's talking about. I have a background in sales, and that's my biggest thing. I sold to the Fed for most of my early careers. Sorry if you run into CPOF. That was kind of my baby at one point. I'm sorry about that. Um, I didn't build it all. Anywho, the other portion that we're talking about, so we left. Again, advocating for yourself. I made sure people knew I was there, and again, networking. I won't say names on here, but the minute I got into Dell, maybe a weekend, so maybe not the minute, the weekend, I started working my way up the manager chain. Like, I need to talk to you. How do I get ahead? What do I need to do to succeed? I kept asking that question over to everybody, to everybody. I worked my way up to the federal lead, 7-digit person, real high up in the world, runs an $8 billion business. And I said, I want to be an AE for an account executive. So that's the outside. That's where money's made in sales. It's not, you be make good living on the inside, but outside is really where if you want to make some money. And I asked him, how do I become an outside sales executive or account executive? And he gave me a path, 1, 2, 3. And this guy, if he gave you the numbers, you better do it because he's going to remember. Even if he has 600 people, he'll know exactly what he said to you and he'll come back to you. So I made sure I did everything that he said as fast as I could and as accurate as I could. He came back in like 3 months, like, yep, okay, we'll get you a spot. I don't, I can't quantify this or confirm, but I was probably one of the fastest people to move to the field. I was offering an 80-year-old 6 months, which usually is like 18 to 24 minimum. That doesn't happen anymore. It's really hard to get to the field. But at the time, I just left and opening opportunities for yourself. People were also looking at me from reseller perspectives and different companies that wanted to come in and take my expertise that I knew. So I got a competing offer. God bless my boss at the time. He tried to match it, but they just couldn't because of HR policies. You can only jump so many spots at some of these companies. And he told me to leave and come back because I had a full scope poly, which is powerful in this business. It just left, and I didn't come back, so I kept moving on. But that's right when you came in. At that point, I think I passed it. I helped train you for like a week, maybe. And then you were on your own on the Army team while I was on the Air Force team.
Yep. Yep. I
Yep.
remember.
Yep. But
yeah. And then so you made AE, different company. Let's talk about all those different transitions because you finally got your foot in the door. You're moving up, but every single time you take that step up, that in and of itself is a new transition. So let's talk about how climbing the corporate ladder is different than anything that we've seen in the military world.
yep. So again, it's all on you. And I live by the creed that stagnation is death. And if I start getting comfortable, like where this is like autopilot, I got to move. It's too easy. I've learned everything I need to do. I need to move up. So that's part of the reason why you'll see as we talk, I've jumped around a lot. And they were never for like bad companies, always for moving up or doing something different. So I went to a resale. This is where I learned one of my most valuable lessons I like to pass on to people. They gave me good money, but good money wasn't worth it. I'd wake up every morning at like 4 a.m. just mad for some reason. Like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? And I didn't last very long in that role. I probably did it. I did at that resale role probably for only like 9 months. Wasn't for me. Learned a lot because I learned what it wasn't for me and what was for me, and I'll never make that mistake again. So as you're going through those transition changes, and you get that first job, like, oh, I hate it. I got the second job. Oh, I hate it. That's okay. You're learning. It's never a failure. You're always learning, and that's the biggest thing to take out of it. And the second biggest thing is don't always chase the dollar signs because it's not greener on the other side sometimes. Granted, where I'll speak out both sides of my mouth, it got me to a different level where now I could demand different rates because I was already at that level. But it's not always greener. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I think that that's also something that we don't particularly understand as we move on with our transition, right? A lot of people believe that a military transition ends when you get your first job. And as you mentioned before, you're still learning. I had 5 jobs in 5 years because I didn't fit in any one of them. Yeah, yeah. So 2020 was about the time that I had finally found the job that I'm in now that I absolutely like enjoy doing. But yeah, now you're taking all those skills, right? You have to redo a resume, you have to redo interviews, you have to redo all that networking. But this time it's a little bit different and you're going a little bit faster because you've already done it.
Yep, that's true. You do get better at it, and your network continues to build. Um, Especially in the space that we were in, the world's really small. I run into people all the time, like, hey, everyone moves around. It's very ancestral, and all the companies share the wealth of the federal space. Commercial is a little different, less I know some commercial sellers would probably be really mad what I'm about to say, but the commercial sales are not nearly as are not as difficult as federal sales. Commercial sales maybe have a 9 month if you're slow sales cycle. Federal, we're talking 24 months for a large one. But anyway, I digress. But to your point, you do build that, you continue to network. And that kind of brings me to another job. So before I left Dell, I did some work at Dell for the 24th Air Force. We were doing, I won't tell all of it because it's still borderline, but we were doing some stuff on the defensive operations side for cyber. And one of our partners, a company called Digistore, I knew the owners, knew the founders. They asked me if I'd come over and run sales for them for their side. And that's when I was upset with where I was in my current job. I was like, yeah, I'll come over there and run it for you. Let's do this. So I know. And this is going back to the money thing. I could have made more money as a reseller because you land a few big deals. There's a lot of money in resells. I made less money there, but I was happier. My wife always says that was the happiest job you ever had. And it was definitely not the most profitable job I ever had. But it was because I was working on a fun product. We were small. We had maybe 9 at our peak, but we were doing a lot of business, high margin business, probably about 30 million. So we were making a lot of money doing it, and we had a lot of fun doing it. Uh, and that was one of the greatest things. I had golf memberships, going around taking people out. All I was doing at that job, and this is all sales is, so people's afraid of sales. Don't be. This is networking. I never once in my career have picked up a phone and asked someone if they want to make it. If I need to, I'm Chris Persaud, I need to make a deal with you. I've never made a cold call in my life. Maybe I'm lucky or not, but that's not what selling is. Selling is being a trusted advisor and being able to go in there and help solve a problem when it's needed. And that's what we did at Digistore. We solved problems for the customer that Dell couldn't do. Not to bore you with all the details, we would take something that Dell made and it wasn't, maybe it was 98% of the solution that the customer needed, but they needed something customized on the back end. We would customize it and sell it through Dell. So it was a whole channel to go to the federal business. That was Digistore. And again, that goes back to that network. So I learned the founders when I was at Dell. Fast forward not 3 months later, I kept them, again, this goes back to, I just don't use your network. I always joke around, people do this, but I always say they're always there when they need you. Don't be that guy. Just be there, be in touch, stay in touch with people. Even if it's just to send a text, what's up? Stay in touch with your network and it will always come back to help you. And this goes back to the resume, if you're talking about being futile in most cases. I haven't redone my, besides like just updating it for like a random job to come and do, like when I was at Amazon, you had to put a new resume in and it took me 5 minutes. I have never updated my resume with anything. It's like 3 words because they don't look at it. They're looking at who you are. Spot signed. And sorry, I'm going to digress again, but this is going back to when we started Dell and how I'm going to get my soapbox again about how pointless online applications are unless you know what's going on. When I got my job at Dell, I already knew I was going to get it because they told me. And I had my interview, and there's 4 poor people that had to go back, and say we have to do this for our HR purposes, and they just randomly put them off the track. 4 poor souls is literally for no chance, and you'll never know that. That's a problem with the online thing. You have to network your way into it. You can't be like, you might end up like one of those poor souls that had to do that. But
yeah, again, that's something that's not really talked about, especially in our tech world. Like my networking skills really helped get me into a position where I'm at right now. Because I had a few people who knew a few people on the team that I work on right now that helped, boost me up into the interview process. And also, just like you, I haven't really like touched my resume in years, other than to make a couple of updates, of projects that I've completed and worked on. But if somebody really wants to get in touch with me, most of the time they look at my LinkedIn and then they reach out to me and say, "Hey, you are actually a good candidate." Lately, it hasn't been a automated message. You know what I
yep,
mean? Like, "Hey,
you
you
could
came
tell.
up in a search," but
Yeah, you could tell.
yeah, this person actually like took the time, read the entire profile, and was like, "Hey, I like this particular spot where you said this," and that's a different level of professionalism that you reach. So,
Absolutely.
so what do you do now?
Yeah. So long story. I'll give you a little bit longer side of it. But so after I Digistore, we went through a merger and acquisition. We bought our partner, and then my ownership. The people have gone through, moved on. I stayed a year to make sure it went smooth, but it just had different views. I wanted to move up in the world and keep going. And in order for that to happen, pretty much the owners had to step away, which is not going to happen. It's their business, nor could I ask them to do that. So I left Digistore, called it Crew too at the same time after we merged. When did that leave? 2023, 2022, end of 2022 or 2023, excuse me. And I went to Amazon Web Services. So went to the big, we call it the heavyweight, and that is like where people, you got your three companies where people make careers. It's Google, Microsoft, or Amazon. And Amazon, in my opinion, was the best out of three to do that. I became a specialist seller, so I sold a product called Workspaces, and it was a lot of work. It's basically, I won't bore you all details, but desktop virtualization. And we, myself, had 45,000 named accounts across the public sector because there's only three people on our team selling for the entire public sector, including Fed and state and local. So we all had about 40 to 50,000 accounts, which was insane. My first year at Amazon was great. I won some awards. Couldn't figure out why some people always say it's like a nightmare. It's a lot of work. I won't sugarcoat it. They expect a lot of you. You learn how to write. If you use PowerPoint at Amazon, you'll get slapped around. Not allowed. So you write papers. So if you don't like to write, probably shouldn't apply to Amazon. But anyway, and then the second year came after COVID, kind of started loosening up a lot more, and it changed a lot. I wasn't happy anymore. Wanted to do some stuff. We went through all the rifts. But at least be where I am now. One of our biggest customers, Maximus, where I'm at now. And disclaimer again, everything I say does not represent Maximus, my views and my views only. They picked me up to be an alliance manager. So a whole new different role. I would run the AWS relationship for Maximus to work with AWS because, again, it is such a weird. They'll even say their culture is weird. You have to know how to run it to actually be successful at it and come from it. And we do millions upon millions. I can't give the numbers, but we do a lot with Amazon, one of the top customers they have. So they needed someone to do that. I did that role. I'm still currently in that role, kind of, for about a year and some change. Now I've moved up under the CTO shop to run a new portion of our business from Alliance side called Emerging Technologies. So I look for small businesses, probably about 100 million, and I say, does that technology directly impact something that we would need for our customers or our solutions in some of our areas that would help do it? And I look at them and say, yep or no. And with a team, which isn't just me, I got some strong tech folks on there as well. And at that point, we have something called FedRAMP boundaries. Won't go into all the details, but there's only 4 companies with a FedRAMP boundary. It's Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and us. And that's our sale to the partners that want to work with us. I can FedRAMP you and bring you to market in the federal space magnitudes of order probably 10 times faster than you could if you got an agency authority to operate. Which again, you have to have a customer that wants you, and then they have to actually do all the security stuff for you. So it's a lot left on here. Thus, a lot of people won't do it because, face it, we're all kind of lazy. We don't want to do a lot more work than we have to. So we take that for them. But yeah, Emerging Technology runs under CTO shop, and we look for new businesses to go into, and that's really fun. Got to see a lot of smalls. I love being small. I love to see how they work again, and working with a bunch of cool ones. Can't say their names, but that's where I'm at now. Learning a lot. So we do, Maximus as a whole does a lot of your, I know probably your audience is not old enough to call Medicare Medicaid yet, but we do all that. We do a bunch of the Advantage stuff on FSA, price searches on that. This one you guys will all know. If you've done a VA medical disability claim, if you went through VES, Veterans Eligibility Services, that's us. That's a subsidiary of Maximus, so we own that portion of it. I think there's three on that contract. We're one of the primes. So it's all government services and contracts across U.S. services, which is like the state and locals, federal, Canada, UK, and then we have some stuff in like Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but not much.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm a senior director over here right now. Hopefully, moving up soon. If you're watching, need my promotion.
Quick plug.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to talk about your personal experience with VA disability claims. You were probably one of the first people that I met who had completed their VA disability. Um, and I want to say I picked your brain a little bit about that because I was struggling with mine. What was it that you did that helped you navigate that
Yeah.
system?
Well, I did it, and I'll say I did it wrong in retrospect. So I'm going back now to try not to. I didn't realize how big mistakes I've made, and that's just within the last couple months. I was like, man, I really messed up after researching. But what I did, as you get out, you can work with a veterans advocate. Most of your posts have them already on there. So you say, I'm getting out. I want to do a disability benefits, and they'll go through a questionnaire. Does your knees hurt? Does your back hurt? You have heard. Have you been blowing up in Afghanistan? Like I have. Does all that other stuff happen there? And when I went through, I ended up with 60%, and I thought that was great. And then I realized like a lot of the stuff actually, if you start reading the benefit questionnaire of what you should do, I was under the impression that I'm fine. I don't need your help. I don't need this. And I faked a lot of it just to get to like say I'm not hurt. That doesn't hurt. I don't need more medicine or that. And that's not the right way to do it. You have to be complete. So one time where you have to be more open and honest than anything else. And it's one of those situations like I realized a lot of the stuff that I had was automatic secondaries. You should have got like I have like one of the things I got like 40% or something like that for TBI. Like, have you gone in for migraines? Is that a thing? I don't know. Yeah, do you have migraines? Like, yeah, we probably should go for migraines. Like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Different things like that. Oh, my knee hurts. I still hurts. Can't bend it. It pops like 4 different ways when I go down from jumping, and rucking in a second. They're like, probably should go back for more. Like, but have you checked your back? Does your back hurt? Yeah. It's like, well, that can be a secondary too, where you don't even need medical. You don't need evidence. It's just assumed. So those things rack up. I'm not trying to tell your audience to rack and stack all the way to 100%. That's not the way I'm doing. You need to get yourself to the right level that you are rightfully owed. Don't don't be one of those guys that goes out there and just tries to get 100% because they want to get their tax break or whatever. That's not the moral ethical fiber you want. That gives you a bad. But if you are truly injured and you have it, make sure you, going back to what we talked about, you need a medical documentation if you're out. I'm assuming you're out. A nexus letter stating that this injury is a direct result, or more than likely a direct result, because of X, Y, and Z. So I'll use PTSD as an example. That's an easy one. They'll take you through with an examiner, a psychologist, and they'll say, here's your stuff. They'll ask you all the questions, normal questions. Do you have a cab? Do you have a CID? Do you have whatever? And you say, yes, yes, yes. They'll go through their normal PTSD questionnaire. Do you have night times? Do you have anger? Do you have anxiety? You name it, whatever. Okay, answer your questions truthfully and honestly. But then they need to tie it to an event. So have you been blown up? Have you done this? Did you severely into it? So you have that trigger event in PTSD that all gets linked back in. So I'm hesitant to ever tell people to do this is because it costs you money, but I did it and it helps me to understand this better because I would never have known what I should go after. Is there are people out there for a cost that will help you navigate the portal, and it's usually based off of how much they either A, get you in the first place, or B, upgrade you. And it's capped, so you're not gonna pay for the next 10 years trying to pay these people off for what they helped you. If you are true, and again, there's other free services like what's the DAV as a free service. I'm not sure how to use it. I didn't use it, but I was willing to pay someone to get kind of that one-on-one service. And if you're willing to do that, there's nothing wrong with it. I know some people look down and you're like, you can do it yourself. Sure, you could do it yourself, but would you rather take someone who has some examples and work through it, or do you want to recreate the wheel yourself? But I'll leave it at that. I'm not going down a rabbit hole, but that's really what you need to do is find someone that helps you, and it's either paid or free, and learn what you're doing out because they will help you get doctor's appointments too. Because sometimes it makes sense to have a doctor independently say, "Yep, look at that, his knee's jacked up, and I think it's from that." And if you go to the VA, they send you to the doctor, they do their little measurement test of how far your knee bends. And if they find something different, they just go back and say, "My doctor said it was. Your doctor's wrong," and then they'll redo it. We go down another 2 hours on disability.
Yeah, and maybe one day I'll bring you back and we can talk about that. But
Yeah.
to be fair, you bring up a really great point, right? There's different ways to do this. You can recreate the wheel, and try it all on your own. Case in point, I recreated the wheel because the DAV was kind of sitting on their hands. I had went to them first, and the God bless this woman. She was about 80 years old, and she was my case manager. Um, I didn't hear from her for about 3 months. Went back to go visit. I hadn't seen her. So I'm not gonna. I don't know what happened. To be fair, with my case. So eventually, I just decided to file my disability on my own. The problem with that was I didn't know what I was doing, right? So all the appointments that I was trying to make, I couldn't make, and things happened. But I also want people to understand this too, right? And you brought this up that you are doing this again. You are refiling. You are redoing your VA disability claim after you've already been awarded 60% disability. So, yes, you can refile multiple times to get what you deserve, right? Like I was given not service connected on my knee, but my knee is killing me for the last year. Um and it's definitely part of it was like I was just ignoring it, but now it's a problem. So I really need to get back, and I have to refile.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to understanding why I say you have to have somebody else help you. Case in point, I remember during my back one because they gave me no for my back. One of the tests they'll give you when you do a back is bend over at your hips. How far can you go? And no one ever preps you like you should stop where it hurts. Not how far can you go, stop where it hurts. And I'm like, oh, look at me, I touched my toes, but it hurt. And
Yeah.
there's no problem. You're good. It's not about pain. It's about everything they do, especially with joints, is range of motion. It's like if your knee hurts if let's say, I can't remember the number, but let's say it's 80 degrees, whatever flexion to get up there, and it hurts at 85, stop there. Don't go, I can go through it. Watch this. They're not going to care if you say, hold my beer, watch this. It's not going to, it's not going to matter. You gotta play, I don't say play the game, but you got to know what they're asking. And they're asking you for range of motion, not for pain. They are conceding that it hurts or you wouldn't be there. They're giving you the benefit of the doubt. And I know there's some people out there that are afraid that if they go back for more disability, they might take it away. Some of the things they go back for reeval. One, I won't say her name, but she works. She was very, very high up in the VA. I'm talking like top four at one point. And I've asked her that question when I was thinking about going back. She's like, Chris, I've been there for a while in charge of this. It's like, I've only seen it once, and it was because someone reported him for being fake, and they went back and called him in. He's like, we don't take away your stuff, and they actually, I forgot the term, but basically they have the right to give you the most benefit of the doubt in terms of the way of percentages. So, instance, let's say you go for TBI and then you go back for PTSD. If your TBI rating is higher than your PTSD rating, they'll keep you at TBI. They won't, or vice
Gotcha.
versa. They won't take it away for the lower one. They have to give you the higher one of the two. Um,
Gotcha.
but again, that goes back to education and training and understanding. Like, oh, my knee hurts. Stop that. Now my back hurts. Oh, wait. And this is, I don't say stacking disabilities, but it's actual stuff that can be true. Does your back now cause you not to lose sleep, which then creates anxiety? It's
Right. Right. Again,
it's a
it's
weird
not
game I didn't
stacking.
learn about until like 2-3 months ago. But it's like I guess I could see that, and you start seeing how it goes, and you wonder why so many people are getting up there. It's because they're educated on the system. They're not trying. I hope they're not trying to play a system because that's not good. But if they're doing it within the legal rounds and what they're ethically and morally entitled to, who am I to say no?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Like, and one of the things that we have to understand about the human body is everything is connected, right? Like the knee hurts, the back hurts probably because the knee hurts, or vice versa. And again, as you mentioned, oh, now I'm losing sleep, so now my anxiety is up, and now my mental health is suffering. Everything is connected. Um, yeah,
Absolutely. So there's a lot out there. Like I said, just get educated. Whether you choose to pay someone, do it yourself, or go through like one of the free programs. It's education's up to you. And I hate to say it now, but if you go on Chat GPT and one of their free GPTs, there's a vet GPT like in veterans, and you can ask it every question you want to know about whatever disability you're chasing and what you do. Tell them everything you want, and it will give you an idea what you should go for. in terms of using the letter of the law of what it states you're probably entitled to. But that's just something you could do if you're interested.
Yeah, there you go. And then you also brought up this interesting point. You brought up the nexus letter, right? For those of us who don't understand what that is, at least for me, when I and probably for you too, right? Because you and I grew up in the same army where you didn't go to sick call as an officer, and I got out, and when they handed me my medical jacket, it was like four
Yeah,
pages long, right?
I
Some
probably have it
guys,
back here. It's like this.
yeah, some people have it like, and it's three jackets big. Mine was 4 pages long because we were just told, like, suck it up.
Yep.
And
Some of the
and
stuff we see on our side who do it better than us. On the VES side, I've seen like on one of our automation programs, they have 15,000 pages in their medical jacket. I'm like, good for you.
yeah,
It's like versus I think I looked at it, like you said, I only had like 10. It was like,
yeah,
I got in and got out. That's really what this is.
exactly. But we hurt the same. But also, so now we're talking about the Nexus letter,
Yeah.
and for a lot of people who don't know, like if you have to get a Nexus letter, those don't come cheap either. Like a lot of times, you actually have to pay for a Nexus letter, and that's not working with a program. That's like working with your doctor.
Yeah.
Um,
I can speak to that because I had some Nexus helps I wanted to do because I remember I didn't have I can't sometimes on some of the issues I'm claiming I can't say directly because it's on my record.
exactly.
So I have to do a sworn statement of myself. Maybe it's a sworn statement of my wife telling me she's seeing the same thing. And then I go back and I actually get a doctor, talk to a doctor, and then tell them my symptoms. Then they write a nexus basically is their medical opinion that it's more likely than not that that is caused by X. And then the VSO, or whatever they are, I can't remember what they're called, the rater, will look in and say, I'm reading your letters, I'm reading what the doctor says. Okay, I agree. Here's your number.
And that is a completely separate process, and I don't
Yeah.
know if anybody is talking about that.
I hope it's not subjective. I've never seen them. I've never seen that rated in real life. I think we'll have a few on staff on our side to help us out, but I don't. I'd love to talk to them, see how much of it is subjective versus purely objective. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have them on the show just to pick their brains. All right, Chris, I'm going to wrap up here, and we're going to ask two questions that I ask everybody. All right, so the first one is this. During your transition, you picked up a lot of free chicken. So it's now your turn to give it to somebody else. What is one piece of advice that you want to give to anybody who's transitioning out now?
It's a great one. There's so much, and I think I already know the answer to this because I tell everyone whether they're I've worked with colonels, W4, W5, all the way to lower enlisted, and if you have time, I say network right now. Even if you're not on ACAP or any of that kind of stuff, 2 years out, start networking. It doesn't matter. Just keep building your Rolodex. I mean, how do you think, besides some of we won't talk about the moral side, but how do you think some of these generals in higher level get out and they automatically have a job? It's because they were always involved with industry that helped them and everyone knew their name. It wasn't because they're some special person. I mean, in a way they were, or they did something nefarious, but I won't talk about ACUs. Uh, I didn't say that out loud, but anyway, they networked with industry very well before they got out. And I in my role, I picked up people all the time who were getting out like, I want that guy. And I just grab them before to work on their DevOps security teams and try to bring them in a spot, whether it's with me or someone else. So
Got it.
network.
Perfect. And then what's one thing that you did in the army that you still do to this day?
I don't run. I hate running. I'm not going to run. I give up that. I'm not a quitter. What else? What do I do? What do I do? Try to think here. I did do in the army because it wasn't my job, but I learned how to do in the army. Long range precision. I just worked on our team, so if I can show you my wall, I have a bunch of long range weapons. So I go out to the range still and go out to a mile. It's about where I called it quits and hit an
Wow.
18 hitch at a mile. Long range precision is one of my hobbies, but also I didn't pick it up as much in the military. We did it just because we had to. Jiu-jitsu, which is combatives, obviously. So I'm
Yeah,
purple
yeah.
belt jiu-jitsu. I still do that to this day, and that's my stress reliever is jiu-jitsu for the most part. And then working out. Can't work out as hard on my legs anymore because of my knees, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, man. especially, and just as you said, it's a stress reliever. One of the things that I'm a serious advocate of, especially in the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, is definitely finding a place to work out, let off that steam, whether it's in the gym, whether it's on the mats, just do something healthy.
Yeah. And I know we hear Rogan, probably everyone's heard Rogan talk about jiu-jitsu so much is I'll go in there angry. There's something that's going on at work or something, whatever. But you can't think about it when you're trying to defend yourself from being choked out. I leave and I'm just calm. It's like a different person came out. Whether it's just an hour and a half, whatever time I got time, but I try to make at least time 3 or 4 times. So it makes me so close is fine too to relieve the stress.
Yeah, and to kind of give yourself a little bit of a purpose, right? If you're getting out as a retiree and you really don't need to work, doing a hobby is definitely great to have.
Yeah. I figure, so I'm still a little bitter that I didn't get through selection. So I told myself I wouldn't quit till I got a black belt. So that's my punishment for not getting through selection.
There
So
you go.
I got a few more years left, but I'm stuck.
There you go. Some people do 500 air squats as punishment. You decided to get your black belt in jujitsu. So,
Trying. We'll see when we get there. But
indeed.
you.
All right. Chris, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Everyone, take a moment, like, share, comment, subscribe, and later, lads.